Let us for some time meditate on the Divine Master and pray for the welfare of the whole humanity. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Stapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stapakaya Cha Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the Divine Incarnation, who has graciously descended on this earth to give his profound teachings of spirituality. The whole universe is taken into Sri Ramakrishna's way. Sri Ramakrishna has come to give an ideal to all the people in the humanity, all the people in the universe. It's a rare opportunity for us to become acquainted with Sri Ramakrishna's life and teachings, which have tremendous spiritual power. By taking refuge in him, taking shelter in him, it would be possible to sail the boat of life easily. Sri Ramakrishna has shown the way how to go about in this world. This world is not separate from God. It is God's own abode. If we have this feeling, then everything becomes easy. The Supreme Divine incarnates himself as man and teaches people the path of devotion. Sri Ramakrishna has said there are many paths. The path of reasoning. But how many people can go in that way? Sri Ramakrishna himself tells that that path of reasoning was really very tough. Brahman alone is real, everything else is a dream. It's not easy to comprehend this idea and dwell upon it constantly. So Sri Ramakrishna urges people to cultivate self-surrender to God. He always tells people to follow the path of devotion. One can realize everything through the grace of the Divine Lord, both knowledge and supreme wisdom. God loves to give. He loves His devotees more than anything else. Lord Krishna has said specifically in the 12th chapter of the Gita about 32 characteristics of a devotee whom he loves them. So it's very important for us to develop true devotion. We must become devotees, then it becomes easy to have true devotion. Conversely, by performing devotional practices, we can become true devotees. Sri Ramakrishna's life gives us a wonderful model in the path of devotion. Sri Ramakrishna has said many times that God sports in this world. God is under the control of His devotee. Here devotee means a true devotee, having true devotion. Sri Ramakrishna himself is there as the example. The Divine Mother is herself tied by the cord of the love of her devotee. These are the statements of Sri Ramakrishna. Many times we see, we go and adopt children. We bring pets. Why? Because we want to give expression to our love. Something must be brought in and we must express our love. So, that attitude of selfless love is there in every one of us. We should cultivate this properly and become blessed. It's only through devotion, being a true devotee, we can have real happiness. In this world, real happiness is very rare. If you take your life as a whole, from the date of your birth up to this date, suppose you compare yourself, the amount of pain and sorrow you underwent and the happiness you got, what do you find? There is very little happiness. But those who are devoted to God, they know some peace in this world. Pains may come, sorrows may come, they are not disturbed because they know that everything comes from God. It is the same God who gives us happiness and again trials and difficulties. That's why they bear everything patiently as a blessing from God. If you study the life of Kunti in Mahabharata, throughout her life from the beginning to the end, how much hardships, difficulties she had to undergo, but she suffered everything without getting disturbed. That means her devotion to Lord Krishna was intact. It is that devotion that gave her supreme joy in spite of intense difficulties. So people who are really devotees, who are practicing the path of devotion, they never get elated by so-called happiness in this world. They are not upset by so-called sorrows in this world, because they know whatever the happiness that is got in this world is impermanent and short-lived, so is sorrow. Lord Krishna says in the Gita, Yo nagrishyati nadveshti nashochati nakangshati shubha shubha parityagi bhaktiman yassame priya. How beautifully Lord Krishna has extolled the nature of a true devotee who is very dear to him. It is rather difficult for an ordinary person to stand the actions and reactions of this world. Every now and then we will be under some kind of constant pricks. But If we develop faith in God, then we are not overwhelmed by this. So, to become a devotee, one should occupy fully with spiritual efforts. That is, set an ideal before you, hold on to it, hold on to your initiated mantra. Never deviate your mind to any other thing. Pray to Him, worship Him, be with Him during services, concentrate on Him. Make the mind one-pointed. That's the purpose of all these prayers, worship and services. That's the purpose of holding on to one ideal. That's the purpose of not deviating mind to any other thing. That will help to develop our spiritual intensity and love for God. On the other hand, if you run after too many places, it dries up your spiritual intensity. Whatever little spiritual aspirations we have, they all vanish if you keep on running here and there. Stop running. You have taken the ideal. Why do you run after? That only shows you have no trust in your ideal. Be very strict about your own self before imposing strictness on anybody else. It's very important and a very essential step we should take to become a true devotee. Constant remembrance and thinking of God will make Him graciously reveal Himself in the heart of the devotee. He runs after the devotee. He is very eager to give vision to the devotee. What he wants is that we should become true devotees. That's all that is needed. That means we must love God without any hypocrisy. If the devotee fulfills this condition, God favors such devotees. God is not to be satisfied by anything else. It is love and devotion alone that please Him. Love and devotion alone. Hold fast to the Lord at all times and at all circumstances, in happiness and in misery, in disease and in health, in peace and in unrest. Live a pure, selfless life. Desire nothing else but the love of the Lord. I am living for the sake of loving God. That should be our attitude of life. If you have the attitude of living for the sake of sensual enjoyments, then your life has gone vain. So Sri Ramakrishna tells very clearly, let your deeds speak, not mere words, nor theories. Be practical, be truthful in your doing things, in your actions. That's the meaning of telling, let your deeds speak, not mere words, nor theories. If we love God for what we can get from Him in the world, what does it show? That shows we really love the world, not God. And we can never be true devotees as long as we try to get something, some kind of personal benefits, some worldly achievements or whatever it is, whatever you may call. Our love towards world is becoming more than that of God. So the true devotee loves God for the joy of loving Him because God is the beloved. He has chosen God as his ideal, so his whole mind should be set on it. That means he should empty himself completely. Then he is infilled with God. So, first of all, let us try to attain devotion by various means, then serve God in mankind. Please remember, it is very important to note that work is not the end of life. Selfless work needs to be done. In the whole day of your activity, how much you are selfless, that counts more than how much you have devoted your time in your activities that help only the individual. So selfless work needs to be done. In 24 hours of the day, suppose you have devoted 5 minutes in selfless work, that counts more than anything else. The rest of the time which you have spent is all waste, sheer waste. So your true devotion develops only to the extent you do selfless activity more and more, honestly, always thinking, cherishing love of God. Selfless, getting rid of the poison of selfishness, which is ruining us in every respect, which is devouring us, which is overwhelming us. So one gets true devotion only by engaging in selfless activities. If one acquires devotion to God, morality and purity, all those things will follow by themselves without even trying to be moral or pure. They automatically come. You don't have to think about them. Once you come in contact with a spiritual teacher, once you have come to know the path, then learn about the path and walk on the path. You will reach your destination. Then alone will raise faith and devotion. To cherish faith in the divine, to be devoted to Him, to praise His glories. These are the duties in life. Not simply attending to your household activities and getting married and getting this thing, that thing. They are all secondary duties. The primary duties is devotion to God. Give prominence to God in your home. Give sufficient portion of your mind to God. Engage in selfless activities more and more. These are the primary duties. If you are engaged in worldly duties, you love the world, no doubt. The world also loves you. It drags you, you will also be dragged by it. Both of you get attracted and the end result is known to everyone. In the same way, if you do spiritual duties, you will love God and God loves you. You will get illumination, life becomes meaningful. Otherwise, life is vain and meaningless. Life is vain and meaningless without attaining devotion to God and spiritual illumination. So if we keep on doing spiritual practices, true devotion, faith and knowledge are the results, are the fruits of long persistence in spiritual practice. Not simply sitting for 5 minutes and jumping and running to places afterwards. So keep your mind pointed towards God and your boat will sail smoothly. A person who does this never loses his faith and devotion, even if he is thrown into an evil environment. What has happened is, at the present situation, the mind power is so great, our soul power has become terribly weak. We can't exercise any power over the mind. Mind is ours. We'll be always telling my mind, my mind. At the same time, you don't have any kind of control over your mind. What kind of you are telling my mind? What's the use of telling that way? That means you have lost the power of exercising influence over your own mind. So the more you tend towards the worldly things and worldly activities, it becomes more and more worse. So Lord Sri Ramakrishna says, out of His infinite grace, compassion, develop love, develop devotion, follow the path of devotion. Don't discard the world as dream. World is the abode of God. With that feeling, you can carry on your activities nicely, and your love and devotion also increase. You must intensify your spiritual practices. Life is going on, whether we do it or not. That's all. So, Sri Ramakrishna has come and told us, let us try to follow these teachings to the best of our capacity. Try to come more and more to the temple services and attend with devotion. Do it intentionally. Do it consciously, not for the sake of favoring somebody else. You are coming here so that to make your life spiritual. You are coming here so that God may show favor to you. Have that feeling. Don't have the feeling that you are coming here for anything else. So, with this attitude, I hope whatever you do will become worship to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna is very much present here, very much present here. So I shall conclude my talk and read some passages. Page 355, chapter 17. That is why God incarnates Himself as man and teaches people the path of devotion. He exhorts people to cultivate self-surrender to God. Following the path of devotion, one realizes everything through His grace, both knowledge and supreme wisdom. God sports in this world. He is under the control of His devotee. Shama, the Divine Mother, is herself tied by the cord of the love of her devotee. So I have tried to elaborate on this teaching of Sri Ramakrishna. Sometimes God becomes the magnet and the devotee the needle. And sometimes the devotee becomes the magnet and God the needle. The devotee attracts God to him. God is the beloved of his devotee and he is under his control. According to one school, the gopis of Vrindavan, like Yashoda, had believed in the formless God in their previous births, but they did not derive any satisfaction from this belief. That's why later on they enjoyed so much bliss in the company of Sri Krishna in the Vrindavan episode of his life. One day, Krishna said to the gopis, "Come along, I shall show you the abode of the eternal. Let us go to the Jamuna for a bath." As they dived into the water of the river, they at once saw Golok. Next they saw the indivisible light. Thereupon Yashoda exclaimed, "O Krishna, we don't care for these things anymore. We would like to see you in your human form. I want to take you in my arms and feed you." So, the greatest manifestation of God is through His incarnations. The devotee should worship and serve an incarnation of God as long as he lives in a human body. At the break of day, he disappears into the secret chamber of his house. Not all by any means can recognize the incarnation of God. Assuming a human body, the incarnation falls a victim to disease, grief, hunger, thirst, and all such things, like ordinary mortals. Sri Rama wept for Sita. Brahman weeps entrapped. Brahman weeps entrapped in the snare of the five elements. It is said in the Purana that God in His incarnation as His soul lived happily with His young ones even after the destruction of Hiranyaksha. According to Hindu mythology, God incarnated Himself as a soul in order to save the world from the iniquities of the demon Hiranyaksha. As he saw, he nursed them and forgot all about his abode in heaven. At last, Shiva killed the soul body with his trident, and God, laughing aloud, went to his own abode. In the afternoon, Bhavanath arrived. Rakhal, M, Harish and other devotees were in the room. Master said to Bhavanath, to love an incarnation of God, that's enough. And what ecstatic love the gopis had for Krishna. Sri Ramakrishna began to sing, assuming the attitude of the gopis. O Krishna, you are the soul of my soul. Then he sang, I am not going home, O friend, for there it is hard for me to chant my Krishna's name. And again he sang, O friend, that day I stood at my door as you were going to the woods. Continuing, the master said, when Krishna suddenly disappeared in the act of dancing and playing with the gopis, they were beside themselves with grief. Looking at a tree, they said, O tree, you must be a great hermit. You must have seen Krishna, otherwise why do you stand there motionless, as if absorbed in samadhi? Looking at the earth covered with green grass, they said, O earth, you must have seen Krishna, otherwise why does your hair stand on end? You must have enjoyed the thrill of his touch. Looking at the Madhavi creeper, they said, O Madhavi, give us back our Madhava. The gopis were intoxicated with ecstatic love for Krishna. Akrura came to Vrindavan to take Krishna and Balaram to Mathura. When they mounted the chariot, the gopis clung to the wheels. They would not let the chariot move. Saying this, Sri Ramakrishna sang, assuming the attitude of Akrura. Hold not the chariot's wheel. Is it the wheels that make it move? The mover of its wheels is Krishna, by whose will the worlds are moved. Master said, is it the wheels that make it move? By whose will the worlds are moved. The driver moves the chariot at his master's bidding. I feel deeply touched by these lines. At 9 o'clock in the morning, Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the southwest porch of his room with Rakhal, Latu, M, Harish and some other devotees. M had now been 9 days with the master at Dakshineshwar. Earlier in the morning, Manmohan had arrived from Konnagar on his way to Calcutta. Hazra too was present. A Vaishnava was singing, referring to one of the songs. Sri Ramakrishna said, I didn't enjoy that song very much. The songs of the earlier writers seemed to me to have more of the right spirit. Once I sang to Nangta at the Panchavati, to arms, O man, death storms your house in battle array. I sang another, O mother, I have no one else to blame. Alas, I sink in the well these very hands have dug. Nangta, the Vedantist, was a man of profound knowledge. The song moved him to tears, though he didn't understand its meaning. Padmalochan also wept when I sang the songs of Ram Prasad about the Divine Mother, and he was truly a great Pandit. After the midday meal, Sri Ramakrishna rested for a few minutes in his room. M was sitting on the floor. The master was delighted to hear the music that was being played in the Rahabat. He then explained to M that Brahman alone has become the universe and all living beings. Master said, referring to a certain place, someone once said to me, nobody sings the name of God there. It has no holy atmosphere. No sooner did he say this than I perceived that it was God alone who had become all living beings. They appeared as countless bubbles or reflections in the ocean of Sachidananda. Again, I find sometimes that living beings are like so many pills made of indivisible consciousness. Once I was on my way to Burdwan from Kamarpakor. At one place I ran to the meadow to see how living beings are sustained. I saw ants crawling there. It appeared to me that every place was filled with consciousness. Hazra entered the room and sat on the floor. Master said, again I perceive that living beings are like different flowers with various layers of petals. They are also revealed to me as bubbles, some big, some small. While describing in this way the vision of different divine forms, the Master went into an ecstatic state and said, I have become, I am here. Uttering these words, he went into samadhi. His body was motionless. He remained in that state a long time and then gradually regained partial consciousness of the world. He began to laugh like a boy and pace the room. His eyes radiated bliss as if he had seen a wondrous vision. His gaze was not fixed on any particular object, and his face beamed with joy. Still pacing the room, the Master said, I saw the Paramahamsas who stayed under the banyan tree walking thus with just such a smile. Am I too in that state of mind? He sat on a small couch and engaged in conversation with the Divine Mother. Master said, I don't even care to know, Mother, may I have pure love for thy lotus feet. To M. One attains this state immediately after freeing himself of all grief and desire. To the Divine Mother, Mother, thou hast done away with my worship. Please see, Mother, that I don't give up all desire. Mother, the Paramahamsa is but a child. Doesn't a child need a mother? Therefore, thou art the mother and I am the child. How can the child live without the mother? Sri Ramakrishna was talking to the Divine Mother in a voice that would have melted even a stone. Again he addressed her saying, mere knowledge of Advaita, I spit on it. Thou dost exist as long as thou dost keep the ego in me. Speechless and looked at the divine manifestation, the Master, he said to himself, the Master is an ocean of mercy that knows no motive. But is in a state of eternal bliss. He is always drunk with ecstatic love for the Mother of the universe. With folded hands, Hazra looked at the Master and said every now and then, how blessed you are, how blessed you are. Master to Hazra, but you have hardly any faith. You simply live here to add to the play, like Jatila and Kutila. In the afternoon, M paced the temple garden alone. He was deeply absorbed in the thought of the Master and was pondering the Master's words concerning the attainment of the external state of Paramahamsa after the elimination of grief and desire. M said to himself, what is this Sri Ramakrishna acting as my teacher? Who is this Sri Ramakrishna acting as my teacher? Has God embodied himself for our welfare? The Master himself says that no one but an incarnation can come down to the phenomenal plane from the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. The Master himself says that no one but an incarnation can come down to the phenomenal plane from the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now your turn to speak, to ask questions, to give comments. Any comments to make? Why it is difficult? What is the reason? So we have allowed the mind to go that way, so it becomes difficult. That's the reason. Yeah, that is true. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna says. You have to, the more you go farther away, the more it takes time for you to come back. It is just like that. The more you drive your mind towards the world, the more it takes time for you to come back to spiritual world. So we have to put a stop somewhere and we have to undertake retreat journey. Varnashrama dharmas, that's what I have told very briefly. They are all secondary duties. They are not primary duties. It becomes dharma only when it leads you towards God. If it leads you towards the world, what is the use of that dharma? What is swadharma actually? Swadharma, it has got various connotations. In the ordinary sense, swadharma means one who goes according to one's own nature. That is Swadharma, according to his mental makeup and environment and surroundings and situations. Other thing is the Swadharma, the going to the core. One is external Swadharma nature. The other one is the inner core. What is the nature of your own true self? So, unless you fill up your mind with spiritual ideas and keep the spiritual ideas higher than the worldly things, it's very difficult to hold on to Varnashram Dharma and at the same time to aspire for spiritual illumination. It's difficult. So Varnashram Dharma, if it is understood properly and disciplines also are done accordingly, then definitely they open the gates to spiritual path. They open the gates. But how many people do really take in that spirit? They use spiritual terms for their material instincts. They use spiritual terms for their material instincts. That's all. But that is not the purpose. When the rishis said Varnashram Dharma, it means in order to give a training to the soul in a steady way, Varnashram Dharma was meant. But now Varnashram Dharma has come to stay only with respect to marriage. The other aspects of Varnashram Dharma are forgotten. What about your brahmacharya life? Gone. What about your after married life? Gone. So, Varnashram Dharma people are talking about making so much noise only with respect to the marriage. Even that also has gone now. Even that semblance of meaning also has been destroyed. It is simply for the sake of just enjoyment of the flesh. People are getting married, not for anything else. That's the truth. That's the truth. That's why you find there is no cooperation between the man and woman anymore. There is no mutual respect. There is no mutual. Always they distrust among themselves. But the point is, the level is brought down to the brute level of sex. It's a brute level of sex. Even that love has become contaminated. The love has lost its meaning because of its contamination. That was not the meaning of Varnashram Dharma. That's not the meaning of married life. Anyway, it's going on like that. That's why you find the results also very disturbing results we are seeing everywhere. So, let us try to understand the truth properly, practice it, then have real peace. That's all. No, I don't think that way. I don't mean that way. The meaning of one-pointedness is not used in that sense. One-pointed devotion that should make you selfless, and the meaning of one-pointed devotion means the whole mind is being fixed on God, on the ideal. In that process, the mind is filled up with God Himself. And who is this Jiva? This rascal Jiva gets merged in the Paramatman. Finished. You are gone. You are no more a wave. You are God Himself. You get into that state. But if you want to remain as a true devotee, to enjoy the bliss of God, as gopis did enjoy the bliss of Lord Krishna, that's also allowed. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. Even to have that ecstatic joy with God, unless we rise to the level of purity, you will not be able to have that ecstatic love. So, you will not become powerless. You will become, on the other hand, you will become most powerful. The reason is, God occupies you and God follows your bidding. God follows the devotee. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. There is no more devotee following God. God follows the devotee. So that is the way of concentration. Why we say? Because concentration is power. Distraction is delusion. The scattering, if the mind is scattered, even the little power is lost. So concentration is used in that sense. And being wholly devoted, giving the whole personality, body, mind and soul, in toto. That is the meaning of concentration. So, one will not become powerless. He becomes most powerful. He becomes God himself. Yeah, correct.
The vitamins had this.
No, there are ways of looking at the things. Concentration as a practice, and concentration is going according to prescribed method, not in a haphazard way, not according to what you think. No, you proceed like this. You are following the instructions of the Guru, and then you are concentrating accordingly. So there is no question of diversification or losing power, because the process of concentration itself makes you more and more powerful. You feel powerless because you realize that nothing is in your hands. Everything is done by God. Is it a easy comprehension? Is it a easy thing to learn like that? If a person knows that everything is done by God, everything is the will of God, he is a man of illumination. So, I don't think concentration will lead a person to a powerless. Otherwise, nobody would have told us to concentrate at all. Sri Ramakrishna spent 12 years in concentration and meditation on Divine Mother. He did not become powerless. It's only to show to the people how we should yearn, how we should long. We should have longing. How can that longing comes unless you concentrate your mind? So, concentration is used as a means finally to get into the goal. That's the way I feel. Now the point is, as I said earlier, Sri Ramakrishna has practiced and realized Dvaita, Advaita, both dualism and non-dualism. He has seen forms of God, he has realized formless aspect. So he has accepted both. There is no contradiction there. There is no contradiction. He has told many things about the Advaitic standpoint, and he has dealt with that path of reasoning quite strongly. Finally, he concludes that it is extremely difficult for people ordinarily to understand the highest Advaitic doctrines and follow them. He is not denying that truth. He is only telling it is difficult for the people to follow that. So he is suggesting you follow path of devotion. But if you, as an individual, if you find that Advaita is suitable to you, go ahead. Perfectly all right. And there are ways and means how to. Every system has got method of concentration, meditation, so on. So one can pursue that. And regarding the Anugraha and Prasada, what you were talking about, in one sense, our self-efforts do not carry anything else. Our self-effort do not carry any meaning, in one sense. In another sense, it has meaning. So you have to accept, you have to understand these two things. In the ordinary sense, that doing something, engaging yourself in devotional practices is on account of the grace only. And because you are engaging yourself in spiritual devotions, you are able to grasp the grace. That's also true. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna tells, that Purusha Prayatna and Kripa both go together. They are inseparable. They are inseparable. Kripa, grace. Purusha Prayatna means self-effort. So self-effort and grace, they go together. You can't separate them. But it is necessary for us to understand these ideas are given so that you may not be idle and you may not waste your energies on the non-essential things. So they tell you to do like this. So from that point of view, it is called prayatna. But you got a good teacher and you got the method how to do it, all those things you got only because of the grace. So like that, you have to understand. Everything has got its value. It has got its value. In one sense it is Purusha Prayatna, in another sense it is grace. In one sense it is self-effort, in another sense it is grace. When you are undergoing spiritual disciplines, it is called push prayatna. When you get experience, it's called grace. Now, if we forget God and if we think we are doing ourselves, then we are in trouble. That's the point. As long as you remember God and do things, then the troubles are minimized and you will be learning. Otherwise, the learning will not come. So, it's very important that one should get into proper association and should know the ideas properly, like that. Here we shall conclude. There is another important announcement, that is street naming. The City Council of the City of Chicago has passed a resolution to honorarily designate South Michigan Avenue from East Adams Street to East Monroe Street as Swami Vivekananda Way. So the program, everything will start on November 11th morning at 11:30, and there will be a procession, invocation, and then after the procession the program will be held in the Grant Park. The details will be announced as and when the details are finalized. But anyway, the date is fixed, November 11th. Please try to participate in this program, which I will consider it as a spiritual program it is. It is really remarkable that things are coming up in a proper way. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its cup to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of His bliss, tasting His nectar, whatever His tap, bathing in His name, that bath for weary souls. Various are Thy names, O Lord. In each and every name Thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of Thy name. So vast is Thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to Thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass, be patient and forbearing like a tree, take no honor to thyself, give honor to all, chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for Thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is Thy servant, O sweet one. In Thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath Thy feet. Oh, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from Thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years, when my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without Thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at Thy feet let me be, in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of Thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of Thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O Thou who stealest the hearts of Thy devotees, do with me what Thou wilt, for Thou art my heart's beloved, Thou and Thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may the freed make others free. May good betide all people, may the sovereign righteously rule the earth, may all beings ever attain what is good, may the whole world be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time, may the earth be blessed with crops, may all countries be freed from calamity, may holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.